everyone, welcome to our economics video presentation. Today we will be covering 3 topics that apply several key economics concepts to the real-world issues. First, we take a look at the Trumponomics and reciprocal tariff, using ideas such as taxation, tariff, quota, and welfare analysis, and is covered by Li Yiling from Department of European Language and Cultures. Second, we examine TSMC as a dominant producer, where we apply concepts like monopoly pricing, cost structures, and market competition, and it's introduced by Huang Liangchen from Department of Finance. Third, we discuss air pollution as a negative externality, focusing on externality, market failure, and government policies such as Picovian taxes, and is presented by Li Yiling from College of Communication. And hi again, I'm Li Yiling. From the following part, I'm going to introduce Trumponomics, tariff impact between the United States and Taiwan. So let me start with the basic. What is a tariff? A tariff simply means a tax imposed on imported goods. It raises up the domestic price and reduces the import quantity, and is usually used to protect local industries. Now, what about reciprocal tariff? Its basic logic is, if you tax on my good, I will tax you back. And is often seen in the trade war and often seen as a strategic retaliation. So under American First policy, the United States placed a higher tariff on many trading partners, such as China, Japan, or even Canada and Mexico. A good example between Taiwan and United States is, in August 2025, America raised a temporary tariff of 20% on many Taiwan products. Besides tariff, we also learn another trade protection tool, which is quota. First, let's compare these two. Both tariff and quota raise the domestic price. Tariff create the revenue for the governments. On the other hand, quota directly limits the import quantity and creates profit for whoever received the important license, not for the government. Secondly, under what circumstances does a government want to use preferred tariff or quotas? If a country wants tax revenue, then they might choose tariff. However, if a country wants strict quantity control, then quota might become their first choice. In terms of efficiency, none of them is efficient since they both cause the deadweight loss. All right, let's move on to the graphical analysis. First is the import market from the U.S. perspective. When imposing a tariff to the Taiwanese good, the domestic price in the U.S. goes up and the quantity imported falls. The U.S. consumer lose since they pay a higher price. From the diagram, we can see that the consumer surplus in the United States will decrease from this big triangle to this smaller triangle, and the producer surplus will gain from this triangle to this bigger triangle, since the higher price helped them compete. And although the United States government collects tax revenue, this rectangle F, overall there's still a deadweight loss, making the market become inefficient. The next one is Taiwan's export market after receiving a reciprocal tariff. Because tariff lowered the willingness of American consumer to pay, Taiwan's export decreased, leaving more goods to stay in Taiwan. Plus, in the domestic supply, this all pushed down the Taiwan's domestic price. In the diagram, we can see that the consumer surplus in Taiwan increased from this triangle to this H plus I, the bigger triangle, and the producer surplus moving from this triangle to this smaller triangle. So you can see the producer surplus decrease because of the falling domestic price. And the rectangle L here is the transfer of import income in Taiwan to the tax revenue to the US. And this two triangle here are the debt we lost, reflecting Taiwan's efficiency loss. The less output from efficient exporters and more low-value domestic consumption after the price drops. After everything, even though the Taiwan sells more domestically, the lower price and less earnings still hurts producer profit. Let's let's talk about the welfare effects. The United States, even after the tax revenue, the big consumer loss and debt loss still cause a net welfare loss for American society. On the other side, Taiwan also suffered a net welfare loss due to the debt loss and producer loss. Alright, above all would be everything for the Trumponomics. And in the next part, I would like to introduce Wang Liangchen, one of our excellent members, to do the following part.
Hi, my name is Sean, and today I will be presenting on TSMC as a dominant producer in the advanced chip market. TSMC dominates the global advanced chip market, especially in 3 and 5 nanometer segments, where its market share exceeds 90%. Major firms including Apple, Nvidia, AMD, which heavily rely on TSMC leading process technology. Building such advanced fabs requires billions of dollars, specialized equipment, and extremely complex engineering capabilities. Because very few companies can match these requirements, TSMC effectively behaves like a monopoly in a segment of the industry. In a monopoly model, the firm maximizes profit where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. This gives TSMC an optimal output label, QM. From this quantity, the price PM is determined by the demand curve. Since the monopoly price lies above marginal cost, TSMC earns positive economic profit. This is very different from the competitive market, where price equals marginal cost and firm earn zero economic profit in the long run. The graph illustrates how TSMC restricts output and charge a higher price. Under monopoly pricing, TSMC produces QM instead of a competitive quantity QC and charge a higher price PM instead of PC. This means consumers face higher price and lower output, so consumer surplus falls while producer surplus rises. The yellow triangle represents the deadweight loss, the part of total welfare loss because these units between QM and QC are not produced. Here we break the welfare trend into areas. Consumer loss areas C and D when price increases to PM. TSMC gains part of loss as producer surplus, also C and D. However, area E and F are not transferred to anyone; they disappear entirely. These two areas form the deadweight loss, showing the inefficiency created by restricting output. Recently, demand for advanced chips has increased sharply due to the rapid adoption of AI. Companies like Nvidia, OpenAI, and major cloud platforms require large number of high-performance chips for GPU or AI servers. This demand shock shifts the demand curve from D to D prime, as shown in the graph. As demand shifts right, TSMC is able to increase both price and quantities it sells. TSMC dominance can also explained by its cost structure. Each EVU lithographical machine can cost around 150 million US dollars, and building a single advanced fab can require over $40 billion. However, once the production line is running, the cost of producing an additional chip is relatively low. The combination of high fixed costs and low marginal costs creates strong economies of scale, which are represented by a downward sloping average cost curve. Because one large firm can produce at a lower average cost than multiple smaller firms. The advanced chip market exhibits characteristics of natural monopoly. TSMC keeps earning long-run profit because it has much better yield rate than Samsung and Intel, so leadership in advanced nodes, and customers who are highly dependent on its technology. And because the barriers to entry are so high, very few firms can compete with it. This profit allowed TSMC to invest a huge long-run project, like building new fabs in Arizona, Japan, and Germany. These fabs take years to construct and enforce massive fixed costs, so they are clearly long-run decisions that expand TSMC future capacity. If Samsung and Intel succeed in developing comparable technology, the market structure may shift from monopoly to oligopoly. In an oligopoly, several firms compete, which generally lead to lower price and greater output. Consumers would benefit from more competition, and the deadweight loss associated with monopoly would shrink. The bargaining power of major clients such as Apple or Nvidia would also increase. This potential shift shows how technology catch-up by competitors will significantly affect market dynamics. To summarize, TSMC's dominant position in the advanced chip market is driven by its technological superiority, high fixed costs, and strong economies of scale. In the setting, TSMC behaves like a monopoly, setting output where marginal revenue equals marginal cost and earning long-run economic profit. The AI boom has further strengthened its pricing power. However, if competitors like Intel or Samsung catch up, the market could shift toward oligopoly, increasing competition and reducing TSMC market power. Thank you for listening. So that's how monopoly causes welfare loss. Next, we move on another type of market failure: air pollution and negative externalities.
Hello everyone, my name is Li Yiling. I started in the communication department. I'm going to talk about topic 3, air pollution and negative externality, why the market failed and how to fix it. A real-world example of pollution, like smoking in the public place, it generates a negative externality such as air pollution. And the producers are smokers, and the victims are those who are in the vicinity of smokers. While a negative externality leads to market failure because the social cost is bigger than the private cost. Firms do not take externality into account when they produce. This means they only consider their own private cost. It causes overproduction. While the market equilibrium quantity and the social optimum quantity are different because the separator of social costs and the separator of private costs are different. The separator of social costs is higher than the separator of private costs. So the market equilibrium quantity is bigger than the social optimum quantity. The market will overproduce without government intervention, so it results too much pollution. Deadweight loss is area ABC. The portion of the market equilibrium quantity is still the social optimum quantity. It causes additional costs which nobody can afford. It only social burden. The placement of negative externalities, smoker and tobacco manufacturer or retailer gain, bystander and society lose. The deadweight loss represents in inefficient because the marginal social cost is bigger than the marginal private benefit. Correcting the market failure, command and control, the government can impose quantity control, for example, set a maximum limitation for factory emission, technical standard. Factory must install specific pollution control equipment or behavior norm. For example, people are not allowed to smoke in public place except in designated smoking area. And the pros are reduce pollution and have legally binding, but it have cons. The cons are infeasibility, inefficiency, and further lack incentive for further reduction. Market base. A Pigouvian tax internalizes the social code into the firm private code, so the firm private code increases. The quantity produced by the firm will equal the socially optimum quantity. How should the tax rate be set to internalize the externality? The tax rate should equal the external cost, and it also depends on social optimum quantity. After setting tax, the supply curve of private costs will upward to reach the supply curve of social costs, so the new equilibrium quantity equals the social optimum quantity. Real-world policy example: a real case of government intervention. Take Taiwan's air pollution fees for example. The fee is charged to polluter. The pollution from fixed source. For example, large facility like factory and power plant. Mobile source. Vehicles such as car and motorcycle. Or construction site. Feed amount is based on the type and quantity of pollutant they release, and it has affected and challenge. The affected are improved air quantity and reduced emission, and the challenges are inadequate feed rate and this policy need for continuous adjustment. Suppose pollution affects neighboring country. How does this create an international externality problem? Because it transfers of external costs, and it causes inefficiency, and there is no central enforcer. And the question is, can international cooperation serve as a Pigouvian mechanism? And the answer is yes, it can, because the main purpose of all international cooperation mechanisms in dealing with international externality problem is internalize the external costs, so the international cooperation can serve as a Pigouvian mechanism. This is the end of our team presentation. Thank you.